Chronicler's note. There are, in every adventuring company, moments when wisdom and urgency stand upon opposite sides of the same corridor. Wisdom says, do not split the party. Urgency says, your hothead Drake companion has vanished somewhere deeper in a corpse-haunted ruin. Naturally, Harmony chose urgency. And while I cannot say I disagree with her heart, I am increasingly convinced that this party treats tactical formation to be a decorative phrase, much like proper filing procedure or please stop touching cursed architecture. Still, let the record show, this day, in a chamber of dust, blood, and monstrous vanity, Harmony Gold, erstwhile priestess of Harula and utter chaos gremlin, did not merely stumble into danger. She sprinted toward it like the charging light brigade of myth and song.
The battle with the skeletal guardians had ended, but peace did not follow. Beneath the ruined halls, the Merry Misfits stood amid dust, old bones, and too many footprints to read cleanly. One path led west, the other led east. Somewhere ahead, a faint draft whispered through the stone. Brenna was gone. For Harmony, that was the deciding factor. Her eyes fixed on the westerly passage with all the restraint of a hound catching scent. She reasoned that the party had fought the skeletal guardians up the east path already, and the wind drew from the west. More than that, something in her simply pulled her forward. Barden saw it plainly. If Harmony wanted it that way, then that was the way they would go. Adrian and Thomas, meanwhile, took the practical road, namely, the one littered with loot. The skeletons still had valuables to search, and no adventuring party has ever become famous by leaving perfectly good bones unexamined. Thomas helped gather what they could, while Adrian did his best to complain with dignity about dust, filth, and the general labor of being alive. Harmony endured the delay poorly. At last, unable to wait any longer, she pleaded with the others to follow and hurried down the westward passage with Barden close behind. The passage opened into a casket room, half disturbed and heavy with silence. Harmony searched with brave determination and almost no visible success. Barden, with far more reliable eyes, found no immediate threat. Then they opened the next door. Beyond waited a throne room. Skeletal statues lined the chamber like silent witnesses. Dust lay thick over the floor. A raised dais stood at the far end, and upon it rested a throne, backlit by an eldritch light escaping from a partially opened stone door. A stone door that was far, far too big to be meant for anything of this world. Before that throne laid bodies, some ancient and skeletal, others fresh enough to still resemble people. Among them was Brenna. The petite Drake warrior lay bloodless, neck cut. Her body as lifeless as a puppet with its strings cut. Upon the throne sat a graceful woman clad in leather, beautiful in the way knives are beautiful when held to candlelight. Her smile revealed elongated teeth, and her words revealed something worse. Brenna had been prepared as a gift. Not for the vampire herself, but for some master, some countess, some distant appetite that preferred blood in very particular ways. When the creature turned her attention to Harmony and began speaking of needing a maiden's blood to make up for Brenna's
impurity,
Harmony responded with the composure expected of a noble priestess of Harula. She blushed, stomped her foot, leveled her longsword, and yelled,
"What does that have to do with anything? Give Big Sis back!"
Barden raised his sword and shield beside her, declaring in the simplest and therefore most correct terms that the vampire would not have their blood. The vampire disagreed. She launched herself from the throne, flying at Harmony with the speed of a hunting hawk and the manners of an alleyway predator. Her strike came like a kiss aimed at the throat. Harmony failed to fully escape, but armor, fortune, and Harula's favor kept the wound from becoming fatal. Unfortunately, it gave the vampire a taste. And once she tasted Harmony's blood, the creature's interest became even more grotesque. Harmony, mortified and furious, called upon her growing command instincts, bolstering the fight with tactical orders before stabbing back with her longsword. Barden pushed in after her, stern as a fortress gate, swinging his bastard sword and ordering the monster away from her. On the far side of the chamber, Adrian and Thomas finally forced open a heavy stone door and entered in the manner only this party could manage. Late, armed, and with Thomas politely greeting the enemy before shooting her. The fight tightened quickly. The vampire healed from wounds that should have slowed any mortal foe. Harmony struck and withdrew. Barden pressed hard. Thomas fired his flintlocks with cool precision, even asking mid-battle whether this was the same woman responsible for tying him up earlier. Adrian, noting her pale nature with professional irritation, invoked his protections and joined the assault. Then, Barden noticed movement among the bodies. Brenna stood. Not gently, not clearly, not with the look of someone waking from a restful nap. She moved strangely, marked by those golden runes, her gaze locked upon the vampire. Amalia tried to break whatever magic might have held her, but no spell shattered. No control snapped. Brenna was not a puppet. She was alive, and she was angry. With a scream, Brenna rushed the vampire and struck with her longsword. The monster recoiled in bafflement.
How can you still live?
A worthy question, though one best asked from farther away than sword range. Harmony cried out for Big Sis, relief and terror tangling together. The vampire, rather than appreciate the miracle before her, turned her hunger back on Harmony. Harmony answered by calling out the creature's movements to her allies, trying to keep everyone alive even as her own fear shook her voice. Barden swung again, commanding the vampire to let Harmony go. Adrian, deciding the matter had gone on long enough, cut himself and let his own blood coat his weapon. A grim Dhampir tactic that drew the vampire's hatred at once.
Half-blood.
She hissed.
Abomination.
There is something darkly amusing about a blood-drinking monster becoming judgmental about bloodlines. But I digress. Amalia moved in, coating her blade with dark magic. Thomas kept watch and fire both. Barden held firm. Brenna's rage continued to carve through the chamber. But still the vampire endured, wounds closing even as they were made. Then Harmony gathered herself. All the embarrassment, fear, fury, and love she had carried since seeing Brenna savaged by the skeletal dog came together in one desperate charge. She burned through every scrap of advantage she had built, called upon grace, and lunged with her longsword. For the briefest of moments, Harmony thought she would miss. For the eternity of a moment, the wayward daughter of Harula's temple felt the goddess's will on her, in the way only the goddess known as the Guiding Light could. And maybe, just maybe, the forgotten grace of the divine sword, guiding Harmony's borrowed blade. The blade struck true. A critical hit! The vampire screamed in confusion as her body began to fail. Dust overtook her. Her final words reached toward her master, unfinished and useless. Then she was gone. For a moment, Harmony could only stare.
I did it!
Then her knees gave out. Barden, steady as ever, gave the praise plainly.
Nice kill, Harmony.
Adrian clapped her shoulder and, with the peculiar kindness of that tired barber, noted that Perhaps she did not bring bad luck everywhere after all. Amalia, practical and gentle, drew on what power she could to heal the wounded. Brenna, Harmony, Barden, Adrian, and Thomas alike. Brenna, now fully herself and wearing strange new markings, glared at the vampire's dust.
So who bit me?
Harmony pointed at the pile of dust as the breeze slowly took it. Only then did Crimson Striker arrive, battered and tattered, her mask nearly the only part of her still intact. She had heard screams. She had tried to reach them. She had not been fast enough.
What happened?
She asked. Harmony, newly victorious, newly healed, and apparently choosing emotional processing by way of blunt summary, brightened and declared,
I killed a sexual predator!
Meta summary. This session places the Merry Misfits in one of their strongest blends of horror, comedy, and heartfelt chaos. The throne room encounter gives the party a clear emotional center, Brenna's apparent death, Harmony's panic, and the sudden reveal that their fiercest, dragon-blooded companion is far harder to kill than anyone, vampire included, expected. Harmony's arc shines brightest here. She begins the session worried, embarrassed, and reactive, but by the end, she steps fully into the role of commander and hero. Her final blow against the vampire is not merely a lucky strike, it is the payoff to her loyalty, courage, and growing confidence. Brenna's survival adds mystery and danger, while also reinforcing her bond with Harmony. Barden remains the steady shield at Harmony's side, Adrian and Thomas bring dry wit and precision, and Amalia's calm support keeps the party from collapsing under the weight of blood, fear, and bad decisions. Overall, this session feels like a turning point. The Misfits are still ridiculous, still reckless, and still allergic to clean tactics, but when one of their own is threatened, they become something sharper. Not polished, perhaps, but undeniably heroic.